Top 10 Best Stereo Amp. Number 10. Cambridge Audio AXA 3535. The Cambridge Audio AXA 35 is an enjoyable, if somewhat basic, stereo amplifier. The amp's balanced and clean audio quality makes a great alternative to the thundering Onkyo A9110 or the treble-minded Denon PMA 600NE, both of which are in the same price range. One of its big selling points is the design, which utilizes all of Cambridge's helpful tricks, like upside-down labeling on the rear ports. The company already makes some of the best apps available right now. The CXA61 is currently in our top 3, above, and it's great to see them releasing a more wallet-friendly product. It means that the AXA 35 should be considered by anybody looking for a budget amp, although as we said, it doesn't do anything that other amps don't do already. There's also no DAC, which may be a problem for those looking for a single box solution. Check out the aforementioned Denon if that's you. We also had some issues with the remote, which felt floaty and imprecise. While the AXA 35 definitely. Number 9. Rega IO 60 Watt Stereo. We are delighted to see Rega back on our list with the new IO amp. The British company appeared here previously with their Brio, and although that amp is very old, the new IO reminds us why we loved it. It's a mid-range amplifier that puts out fun, effective sound quality that has a lot more life than other similarly priced amps, like the Sonos Amp and Totemkin amp. There is an phono stage, as well as a headphone out. Although the IO has fewer analog inputs than the Brio, we don't think it's a huge problem. For the most part, the IO is a fun amp to listen to. In our opinion, there is at least one glaring issue with the Rega IO, and that the lack of digital connectivity. There is no DAC here. While we get that it's clearly a deliberate choice, it does limit options somewhat, and it's frustrating when less expensive amps manage to pack in excellent DACs. We are thinking specifically of the $400 Denon PMA 600NE, which does a solid job. Even a Number 8. Topping PA3 Desktop Hi-Fi. If you have a DAC already, and all you want is a very basic amp for your desktop speakers, then we strongly recommend the Topping PA3. It really is one of the simplest amps we've ever seen, with no controls or additional features. Yet for all its simplicity, we dig the sound quality. It's punchy enough to compete with amplifiers like the Onkyo A9110, and at less than half the price. If all you need is something simple, then this is the amplifier to go for. But look, the Topping PA3 is very much a budget amplifier. While that's certainly not a bad thing, you need to temper your expectations as to what you are getting. The sound is good, without being spectacular, and you will of course need to supply a separate DAC, although these are inexpensive these days as well. It's a good alternative to models like the more fully featured S.M.S.L AD18. Number 7. Sonos Amp, the Versatile. Finally, Sonos has released an amp. Streaming music through a Sonos system has always been incredibly simple, and with the Sonos Amp, their services can now be hooked up to a set of passive speakers. The amp functions in an identical way to any other stereo amp, with the added benefit of Wi-Fi. Once that's hooked up, you can stream music from Spotify, Tidal, or any other service. It doesn't hurt that the amp is a real looker, with a slick design that complements other Sonos products. That being said, We suspect this is an amp you'll go for based on convenience, rather than pure sound quality. If you want something with a little bit more liveliness and detail to the sound, try the Denon PMA600NE, above. While you won't get the same ease of use with these models, you'll get slightly better audio quality than the Sonos Amp. We also couldn't get an answer out of Sonos as to whether the rated 125 watts per channel was RMS or peak. However, the range of features in the Sonos Amp makes it a lock for this list. Number 6. Audiolab 6000A 100 watt. We like the Audiolab 6000A for its large and detailed sound stage. It really does seem to lend a system a little bit more presence and realism, making it easy to pick out the location of individual instruments. Plenty of amps do this already, but Audiolab seem to make a point of focusing on it, and it really pays off. And in general, the audio quality here does well, and is matched by a good range of features, including Bluetooth. The most glaring downside to the Audiolab 6000A is that it simply doesn't do enough to stand out from the crowd. The design is dull, playing second fiddle to the classy Cambridge Audio CX-A61. It has Bluetooth, but the less expensive NAD D3045 can send it both ways. And the DAC on the Totemkin amp does a better job. Put simply, the 6000A is a good workhorse amplifier that does everything well, but can't quite outlast the competition. Number 5. Parasound NewClassic 200. If you know your way around a hi-fi system, then the Parasound NewClassic 200 integrated will be a hugely rewarding choice. It packs a stunning range of features into its slim frame: bypass input for surround sound, a crossover for bass management, and an excellent phono stage. It's a dream to use, and the audio it produces, while a tad analytical, still feels elegant and assured. We think it's a better option than something like the Skiit Ragnarok, which is a little more expensive and offers slightly fewer features. Despite our love for this amp, we must mention that it's not suited for beginners, both in terms of price and in terms of functionality. To get the best out of it, you need a certain level of knowledge to utilize the features, making it a daunting option for most people. It's a superb amplifier in its own right and an easy top 10 pick, but you need to know what you're doing before you buy. We also would have loved to see some sort of Bluetooth functionality included, although, if we're being honest, the omission feels very deliberate here. Number 4. NAD D3045 Hybrid Digital. We previously named the NAD D3020V2 as our top budget app, and this is the next generation. The NAD D3045 doubles the power output, to 60 watts, and adds some genuinely innovative features. Our particular favorite is the two-way Bluetooth, meaning you can not only send audio to the amp itself, but also have the amp send audio to, for example, a pair of wireless headphones. You get a phono stage for a turntable, and even an HDMI ARC channel for using this amp with a TV. NAD have really outdone themselves this time, and while this amp is no longer budget friendly, it gives you just about everything you could possibly need. The one issue we have with it is that it's little too expensive at launch. For comparison, the original NAD D3020V2 costs $300 less, and while it doesn't have the same advanced features, many of them, like the phono preamp and aptX Bluetooth, are still present. As good an amp as this is, paying an X number 3, S.M.S.L AD18 Hi-Fi Audio Stereo. Although they are best known for their headphone amps and DACs, China's S.M.S.L have produced a killer little speaker amp as well. The AD may 18th be less than 10 inches long, but it manages to output a genuinely surprising amount of power, delivering more than enough juice for even the most demanding speakers. We were pleasantly surprised at how well this amplifier performed in a smaller room. While it doesn't have the grunt of something like the Onkyo A9110, it's much friendlier for those with limited space. The most glaring downside with the S.M.S.L AD18 is that for all its charms, it's still a budget amplifier. That means that the sound will be ruthlessly exposed by high-end speakers. You're better off investing in a slightly pricier amplifier, like the Cambridge Audio CX-A61, if you want to go in that direction. That said, there's a lot to love here, including a Number 2. Cambridge Audio CX-A61. The Cambridge Audio CX-A61 is an outstanding amplifier with terrific digital capabilities. It's the latest entry in the company's CX series and it fixes almost all the issues we had with the CX-A60 amp. You get a full range of analog and digital inputs in a beautifully designed and distinctive interface. But most importantly, you get great sound. The audio quality is lively and rambunctious, injecting tracks with real life. This certainly isn't an amp for those who enjoy reference-grade sound. If you do want something with a slightly more neutral presentation, try the Parasound NewClassic 200 integrated or the CX-A81, an 80-watt amp from Cambridge with slightly more restrained sound. You could make an argument that the CX-A61 amplifier could beat the Peachtree Audio Nova 300 in the number 1 spot. However, it doesn't have the raw power and energy that the Nova 300 has, and we just couldn't help. Number 1. Peachtree Audio Nova 300. We have one word for the Peachtree Audio Nova 300, thunderous. It boasts roaring bass, crisp highs, and an outstanding richness that most amps can only hint at. An S-Saber digital to analog converter and a clean digital circuit that creates some fantastic sound, particularly when it comes to shaving down the edges on harsh recordings. This is a true audiophile amp, and it's spot on for anyone wanting crisp fidelity at top volumes. This is an updated version of an already popular amp that topped this list previously, the Nova 220. We'd be crazy not to put it in the top spot, even if it does lose the visible tube from the 220 SE, which we were quite taken with. Don't expect this one to be unseated for a long time to come, and hopefully, the folks at Peachtree Audio will stick it up on Amazon soon. Update, they have. Huzzah! One of its biggest advantages. It offers sound that is on par with many more expensive amplifiers. Check out the description for more information in latest price.